All right, and on that note, let's get it going.
At 9, because that's my number in class.
We're rolling. We're ready.
We're rolling. Am I in frame, or do you want which as far as I can go? Okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for coming out tonight to listen to Dr. Jenny Borda and I talk a little bit about how we can keep you guys safe and keep you well fed for your sport. Who plays sports in here? Right? So that's important, right? Today we're going to get you guys started talking a little bit about how we can eat well to fuel the sports that we're in. All right? Do you guys think we're doing a good job with that already?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right. I'm going to check in with you guys when we're done talking about that. I like Finn's answer. He gave me a little wobbly hand. All right? So, slide. A little bit about me. I was born in New Jersey. All right? So I'm from the East Coast. I was raised here in Ohio. I went to Olentangy Liberty. Yeah, it is. And that's where I actually fell in love with nutrition, from Coach Hale. He was the first person to talk to me about nutrition, and he told me to drink chocolate milk after football practice, and that's what got me hooked. Who knows why we drink chocolate milk after a workout? Yeah.
Is it because it's nutritious?
It's nutritious. Why is it nutritious? Yeah, look at that food label. Good student, good student. While you're looking, it's because there's protein and there's sugar in the form of carbohydrates in that, so it helps our body recover after a workout or after a practice. So that's why we wanted to hand some out for you guys. Extra carbs for that. So I went to Ohio State, and then I did my internship through Mount Carmel College of Nursing. Have you guys heard of that hospital before? Yeah? And then really I found this through starting in the hospital and then working with people over the phone, talking to them about their nutrition, and then finding awesome people like your parents here to help learn about nutrition a little bit more on what we call the wellness side of things. So that's where we are today. So now I'm a coach at Friendship. I'm working to get a special certification to help you guys even more in sports dietetics. So we're going to continue to focus on you guys. And really, I love food and I love cooking. Does anyone else like cooking in here? Good. This is a good sign, Matthew. No? Okay.
So much.
Love cooking. And I find if you love cooking, you're going to love nutrition because then you'll get more intelligent and excited about pairing different things. And of course, I love being active. And there's Teddy, and there's his brother Aiden, and that's Melissa. You guys might know her from here in the gym. Okay? Now, today we're going to talk a little bit about just basic nutrition stuff. I want you guys feeling so confident leaving today. Like, I know what that is. That's a carb. That's a fat. That's a protein. We're going to talk about how, if you guys wanted to kick it up a notch, how you can determine what you exactly need when you leave here today, which will help you guys on game day and for practice, all right? And mom and dad can help you guys with that. We're gonna build a good plate on what a good plate should look like, talk a little bit about timing with your sport and practice, and then figure out a couple of myths that we hear about in sports nutrition. Does anyone have any myths that they've heard before that we should talk about? So you had a lot of questions for me. Anything specifically about nutrition, like you've heard before, from a parent or a coach?
I've heard it from my dad because he talks a lot about it because he's a nurse.
Yeah.
He said it's good for your body. You should have lots of it.
Okay. Yeah. Matt, did you have one? Or have you heard about some myths that I should address today?
You know, there was an experience at this particular gym where I did not eat before a very long workout. And I was almost not standing. So I
Okay.
learned you should eat before you work out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you going into that hoping to like feel light and better, like, or?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought a banana would be sufficient, and it turned out it was not.
That's all right. We find out sometimes like that, the hard way. All right, so getting into our nutrition basics today. All right, who's heard of these words before? Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Are they familiar to you guys? Yeah? Awesome. So I want you guys to think about these as they all serve a purpose, right? And if we are going to think about our bodies as a car, it's kind of interesting to think about what these foods will do for us. So carbohydrates are going to be the gasoline we put in the gas tank. And what does gas make the car do? Go. That's right. So that's going to be our energy source, and that's our body's preferred energy source. So really what we want to be thinking about is prioritizing that more than anything, right? That's our number one nutrient we want to be thinking about all the time. And we're going to talk about what those foods look like on the next slide here. What about fats? We like fats. Does anyone have a favorite fat-focused food? Cheese. I heard cheese. Matt? Avocados. That's right. That picture right there. And really what this does for us is it helps us use some of the other nutrients we eat. We've heard of vitamins before, right? the fat that we eat absorbs those vitamins and helps us use those for energy. So sometimes we think, I'm not gonna eat a lot of fat because it's gonna make me feel too full, or maybe it's gonna make me gain weight. That's a common thing that we hear, but it's a super important part for us for growing and creating energy in our bodies, right? Now that you guys have heard of cheese and avocados, are there any other fats that we like out there? Butter, great one, so tasty. Eggs, yeah, there's good fat in eggs. Where does the fat in eggs come from? What part of the egg, the white part or the yellow part?
Yellow.
That's right, good job. Anything from this side of the room? What's that? Nuts. That's right, we're gonna get into a ton of them on that next slide. And then lastly, protein, one of Coach Andy's favorites. All right, so this is primarily the building blocks for our body. So I like to think of it as Legos. Who likes to build Legos in here? I love to. Finn, yeah, you're still at that age, so is Teddy. So as we're putting together a whole Lego, we build something that looks like a finished product at the end, right? The proteins that we eat help build our body up. Muscle, skin, who's like scabbed a knee before, riding a bike or falling? The way we regenerate that skin is because of the protein that we eat. So it's constantly building those tissues. What about favorite proteins? What's that?
Turkey leg.
Chicken. That's a turkey leg, that's right.
Ribs.
Let's talk about some other sources here, all right? So a little bit of a small print, but I think it's listed on your outline there. I'm gonna go through all of them here. We have pasta, bread, crackers, pretzels, rice, oatmeal, granola or cereal, fruits, vegetables like potatoes, peas, and beans, and then some dairy foods like yogurt, milk, chocolate milk. There's gonna be some carbs in those. Are you counting all of them over there? All right. Did I miss any, guys? Or is there some on there that you eat a ton? Addie, what's your favorite carb?
I like pretzels.
Love that. Great snack option. Cool. And then for our proteins, we're gonna really see these from animal foods. So Matt, you nailed it with the eggs. We're gonna get those also from seafood. Who likes tuna or shrimp in here? Some of us, okay, cool. They call it the chicken of the sea sometimes. All right, we get some Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, or milk. Does anyone eat cottage cheese in here? Kiddos? No? Okay, no milk over here, right? Not fans? Do you guys do Greek yogurt? Any yogurt? Some of it, yeah? All right, awesome. And then who eats tofu in here? Who's tried tofu? That's gonna be more of our plant-based proteins, all right? And then lastly, we can get that through protein bars or protein powders. Does anyone drink protein powder in here? Kiddos, all right, Jeffrey, excellent, nice. All right, and then we talked a little bit about fats on that last slide. I think the only thing we might have missed would be some chia seed or some flax seed. We kind of put those in our granola or cereal or yogurt sometimes. It's a great way to get some extra nutrients. And then lastly, as Coach Jeff knows, my favorite thing to talk about are vitamins. We eat those or we get those from the colors of the rainbow, all right? Who can confidently say they eat every color of the rainbow in any given day? Coach Jenny, nice. Mr. Binnick? Okay. Yeah, guys, we're talking purple grapes, blueberries, green lettuce, right? Bananas, white mushrooms, constant color. And that's a, now, Mrs. Wagner said something very interesting. This does not come from things like Skittles, right? Obviously that looks like a rainbow, but do you think that we're getting the right colors from those foods? Probably not, right? We're gonna get a couple of really weird added processed ingredients and a lot of dyes that might not make us feel our best, but there are some opportunities to kind of sprinkle in some Skittles every once in a while, because that's one of our myths we're gonna talk about at the end, all right? So that's where our sources are coming from. Okay, who does a good job getting all of these in a day? That's what I'm talking about. Those are some good hands going up in the air. Perfect. Who has questions about this or something that I said that doesn't make sense? All right, cool, let's keep moving on. All right, so guys, this is where we're gonna get a little bit more complicated, but I wanted you guys to have this so that we can really start to work with our parents to figure out if we are thinking about turning up the heat a little bit, how we can specifically figure out what's for us. Now, this is a very broad brushstroke. There's a lot of changes that we can make according to how much physical activity we're doing, how old we are, and then how much practice and how many games we're doing week to week. But this will generally get us in a pretty good spot. So I'm not going to talk too long about this since everyone's going to be a little bit more individual, but with these broader recommendations, this can get us in a really good spot. And then for you guys, probably assess how we're doing based on how we're eating right now versus where we need to be eating for a game day or a practice day or just day to day, all right? So mom and dad can help you guys with that, or if you're looking to work on your math when you get home, you could do some of that too, okay? Parents, any questions about this stuff before I kind of move on and what you're seeing? Yeah.
Say math for adults versus kids, it doesn't really.
It'll be close-ish, but it just kind of depends, particularly for that parent and what they're working on too.
How much does physical activity factor into that?
A big part. So we will call that a physical activity factor, and that's going to range from a factor of 0.8 to being completely sedentary, all the way up to a factor of 2 for someone who's super active. We're talking multiple sport athlete, multiple practices throughout the day, training additionally in something like this, and then of course, everything else these kids do outside of school, recess, playtime, hanging out with friends. So typically we'll see that range in the 1.5 to the 2 for athletes like this. And really what we'll see is that probably play like 25% of our total calorie intake and calorie needs. So great question.
Can you
Yes, sir.
touch a little bit on when you're talking about that factor, 0.8, 1.5, where is that you're talking about that on the top line there on calories?
Yeah, so this broad brushstroke equation will cover that physical activity factor for the most part. They have an equation called the Schofield equation, if you guys wanted to look that up, and that kind of adds in that physical activity factor specifically, as well as the age of the athlete, and some other factors that will go into be more specific for you guys. I wanted you guys to have something that we can do just some quick napkin math and kind of get a better sense of where we are. But that Schofield is Schofeild. So if you guys wanted to check that out.
So that 2.2 is for kids?
It is. Down. So that 2.2 is actually taking your body weight, dividing it by 2.2 to get that weight in kilograms, and then we'll multiply that by 35. So that's just kind of that conversion factor. The good news is these other ones, we're just going straight off body weight, so we don't have to do any conversion factor there. Kilograms to pounds, always the tough part. All right, awesome. So guys, building your performance plate. This is how it should look for the most part, all right? So what we wanna do, and I try to use these visuals, and I do this with adults all the time, but for you guys, we're gonna see predominantly most of our plate be of those carbohydrates. All right, so pretzels, right? You said that was like a good snack option. That's one particular option that we can do. And for this one, we're gonna do 2 handfuls of those carbs. So anything we talked about fruit, we talked about pasta, rice, potatoes, all that good stuff, can always be mixed foods, right? It could be some pretzels and some fruit. All that is gonna fit about 40% of the plate there. And then we're gonna split the last 2 percentages with our vegetables and our proteins. So that palm of your hand, everyone hold up your hand. Can you imagine eating a chicken breast that's that big? Or a bunch of shrimp that size? Yeah? Jeffrey, you're probably like, no problem. I can have 3 of those if I wanted to. I heard you're a good protein eater. But that's generally gonna be our guide for that. And then our vegetables, who's a good vegetable eater here? Who loves that? Awesome. Love the hands so far. That's gonna be our fist. Everyone hold up your fist, right? Do you think you can make a salad or some broccoli or some green beans that size on your plate? That's pretty easy, right? You have small hands still, you're good. Awesome, all right. So this is a good general guideline for you guys. Let's say we're going out to a restaurant, we're at a friend's house, we're at school, and we're trying to build our tray or build our plate. Whoever, do you guys pack when you go to school? Good packers in here? Sometimes? All right, so if you guys are gonna be building your tray at school, we can do something like this. This is how I started capitalizing this when I was playing football. I would go up to people's trays and I'd say, you gonna eat that rice there? You gonna get that rice serving? I want that. I would just try and like bargain for some of that food. So hopefully this helps you guys get to a good spot with just a quick start guide for you. Any questions about this? Awesome. Okay, we're doing well. All right, so this is a huge takeaway that I want you guys to start to think about in terms of getting ready for game day or for practice. Super simple to think about. We call it the 4-2-1 rule. All right, has anyone heard this before? Okay, now this is referring to the timing before practice or a game. 4 hours before the game, 2 hours before the game, and then 1 hour before the game. Okay, now generally what we're looking at is how digestible is our food. The further we are away from it, the more of a robust kind of like mixed nutrient meal that we can have. And then the closer we get to practice, we want something really easy to absorb and eat. Something like pretzels or banana, something like that. So I gave some examples here and kind of some guidelines that you guys can follow. So 4 hours out, we're going high carb, high protein, probably low to moderate fat still. Here's a couple of examples, some Greek yogurt and fruit with granola, chicken, rice, avocados, and broccoli, and then oatmeal with some fruit, nuts, and protein powder. How good does that look? That looks pretty good, right? Addie, you're smirking. I can tell. You're a parfait girl. All right. 2 hours out, as we get closer to that practice, we can still have a little bit of a meal. This was kind of one of my go-to meals before the game, was just a lunch meat sandwich and some fruit. But we can also do some eggs, something like some rice or rice cakes, ground meat and like a potato hash if you guys have any leftover dinner or lunch that you want to use. And then also if you want to keep it simple, just like some fruit and some beef jerky. Who likes beef jerky in here? It's the best. Best road trip snack of all time, is it not? Yes. Then lastly, if we're about an hour out, and this is where we can start to look at a little bit more of maybe not eating the foods that we're always thinking of that are healthy, right? Maybe some Skittles an hour before the game would be pretty good. But also, if we are having some options with food at home, I like a bowl of cereal with just some milk. Pretty easy to digest and get those carbs in. Cliff Bar, really high in carb, pretty good to have on hand. Toast and honey is one of our favorite snacks at home that we have before a workout or a practice. And honestly, what we're looking for is just giving you guys as much energy as we can so that you have the best practice ever. All right, we want to get you all that energy in the tank. This is all carb sources and mainly carb focused. Does that make sense, guys?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Let's say you have a competition 9 a.m. in the morning. This is what's your like?
Does this sound? Was this the scenario that we were talking about previously with just the banana, perhaps? Yeah. So great question. So what I would look at is with the 4 hour out rule. This is going to be kind of that dinner option, right? So kind of still having a normal meal, whatever that would look like. Not a lot of criteria around that. Now, waking up early, that's going to be a little bit different. Now, you could try and wake up with enough time, that 2 to 1 hour window, and target something like this, because ideally the previous day we were eating well, sugar stores, carb stores are fully tanked off. But when it comes to something that early in the morning, you guys are going to want to do something that maybe just fills the stomach a little bit, just kind of give us a little bit of circulating sugar for energy. So probably a smoothie, some fruit, a bowl of cereal again, just kind of on the way out. That's where that digestibility scale comes into place. So we don't want to be doing a game or a practice with tons of food in our tummy, lots of fat, lots of vegetables. That doesn't sound very good, right? We want just something to help keep us feeling a little bit full, give us good energy in the tank. So that's what we're looking for there. Hopefully that helps answer that question.
So is it more almost important the day before what you eat when you have an early morning game?
Yeah, we would always look at that regardless, right? This is like in a pinch, in a window of time. This is how we can start to plan some of that stuff. But day to day, we want to follow our normal mixed nutrient meals, snacks throughout those. So yes, absolutely. The whole idea is that your muscles are going to have all this energy in there, and we want to make sure we keep all that energy in your muscles all the time. And if we're not eating enough carb or sugar, that energy level in that gas tank is going to stay pretty low. And can a car go fast if the gas tank is low? Probably not, right? Yeah, Shannon?
So it's like the spaghetti dinners, football Friday for Saturday's games. Like,
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to think about it. I think sometimes people look at that as like a carb loading thing.
right.
But yes,
Dinner,
yes.
and then you're set for the morning.
Still carbs, still protein. The fat will come in a meal like that through like cheeses and whatever meats that you eat. But yes, absolutely.
What if you don't like a lot of these foods? Like if you don't like eggs or bananas
Yeah.
or avocado, you know? Like what do you do?
For vegetables.
I would start to look at smoothies. Great way for that. This is a good opportunity for protein powders as well. The good news is, especially for kids growing like this, there's not a lot of need for a high demand for protein. Really, the big part is the carbohydrate. We can gauge growth and performance based on that stuff. But for the most part, I would just work with what they typically will enjoy, try new foods often so that we can experiment with new things. but then continue to work with maybe a coach or a professional to try and find some more creative solutions. But some redundancy in the diet can easily be covered through something like a multivitamin or supplement in that case. And a physician will work with you on that too if there's any concern for missing nutrients in that case. So yeah, tough question, but kind of like every parent's issue for the most part, right? Yeah. All right, guys. So lastly, finishing up with some myths. Then I'll turn the floor over to Dr. Jenny Borda. Kind of going through some of these. Carbs make you gain weight. Have you guys heard of that before? Yeah? Okay. And we already talked a little bit about how we need those for energy, right? And with how active you guys are, we're going to be doing pretty good with using that energy for our sport and practice. So we want to be really emphasizing that because this is the number one issue for athletes out there, is not getting enough calories. You guys are growing. We're using our brains at school. We're practicing. We're playing sports. And we're just not eating enough calories. Globally, it's a huge issue for athletes. So we definitely don't want to be in a position where we're limiting any of those foods in order to stimulate another result. All right? So that's a big myth in the sports world. Protein shakes are absolutely needed for muscle growth. What do you guys think about that?
No.
Protein is correct, but most athletes get enough protein just through normal food and snacks. So I think there's a big myth. A lot of coaches or other professionals will say you have to have a protein shake. We looked at what you need for your body size. Most of us can get that through food and snack alone. All right? Once in a while, though, if we have picky eaters or we're skipping meals or snacks, we might need a protein shake to help top us off there.
So it's more of a replacement than an additive.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you look at the origins of why protein powder came about, it definitely started in that bodybuilding world where these guys were trying to get in hundreds of grams of protein and just couldn't do that through diet. But mostly we can get that through diet pretty easily if we're just eating normal meals and we're having some snacks between those. The more protein, the better. I had to educate Coach Jeff on this because he loves his protein. All right, and eventually we're gonna hit a top end of that where our body is so awesome and amazing, it knows how to take all that extra protein we're eating and turn it into energy or store it as body fat. So the body knows how to use that. And if you guys follow that equation I showed you, you'll be in the perfect spot. What about energy drinks or supplements like caffeine stuff? Do you guys take any of that stuff? Energy drinks? Is that getting around in some of your sports? Like Prime? Prime, I don't think Prime would be considered an energy drink.
No, there's
Annie?
energy Prime.
Yeah? What kind of drink are you thinking about?
I drink Alani's.
Alani's? Okay. Now,
My tummy.
sometimes, yeah. Now, caffeine isn't bad for youth athletes, but we do want to make sure that we're maximizing how much we're eating for energy, and we're being really, really mindful about how often we're doing that. So really, the only research that we have right now is for people over 18. How old are you, Miss Annie? We're almost there. We're almost there. But sometimes that's okay because it is a performance-enhancing supplement, right? So we do want to keep that limited. Less than 100 milligrams a day is what they recommend for adolescent athletes. And then once we get above 18, it's a different conversation. But
100 milligrams is the mini Alani's. Have you seen those? That's 100.
minis it is.
Yeah, it's like an O2 is 120, cup of coffee is 70. It's kind of rough averages.
What about Gatorades and that kind of thing?
Yeah. So that's where I was going to get to in this. You need to eat clean to perform well. Gatorades are going to be very much high sugar, some electrolyte added drink. And I think what we're seeing a lot is a lot of Gatorade consumption outside of sport, right? A lot of kids opting for that to drink just during the school day or for dinner or whatever it may be. They serve a purpose. I would definitely use that intra-sport. So like intra-practice or intra-game during game time, because we want that sugar and we want those electrolytes. But outside of that, it really doesn't serve us too much of a purpose. So if we're being smart about, again, eating well throughout the day, we don't really need that. But I think some people can get really hyper concerned about how clean their diet is, especially as we get older, right? Into Jeffrey's age, into high school, in the collegiate level areas. But what we find is that quick sugar we get from, what did she say earlier? It was like sugar makes you go. Makes you go. Yeah. Sometimes we need that quick circulating sugar for those explosive sport, wrestling, right? Let's say we're feeling a little fatigued, right? Sometimes a Rice Krispie treat or some Skittles in that moment, a Gatorade, can be a really good way to get some quick energy in the tank. Gummy bears, right. So there is some options for that, right? We don't always have to eat clean, and guess what? It's not gonna derail our progress either, right? Because we're growing and we need that energy. So talk to your coaches about that, talk to mom and dad. They'll be pretty keyed in to when's a good time to use that. And I, of course, will always be ready to answer questions for you guys. Okay?
You said that about the Gatorade, but maybe
Yeah.
you went over really well that 4-2-1 rule. But what about when you have 4-hour practices or you do 2-a-days? Like,
Yeah.
do you have like a number of like grams of carbs you like per number of hours of activity that they would need to replenish? Like that?
Yeah, so the further out you are, you can increase the amount of carbs you're having per hour of activity that you're doing. So I think the 4-2-1 actually goes pretty closely with the recommendations for that. So it's something like 4 grams of carb per kilogram of body weight, and then 2 and 1 accordingly. So I think ultimately what we're thinking about in that case is just continuing to keep our energy levels high. So trying to avoid just eating protein in that case. Having plenty of carb-focused snacks throughout. And really, it's just gonna be trial and error at that point, is what's gonna make you feel and perform your best. I remember doing that at track meets where you would do something early in the meet and then you're sitting around and doing nothing for a couple hours. So it's always best to just have a couple of those snacks that we talked about, including the That's It bars on hand. So if you guys are practicing for a long time or you're in the car between events and having all that time down between how often you guys are performing, good to have some good snacks like that on that sheet for you guys to have on hand. So, but I can definitely get some specifics too. I can't remember off the top of my head what that is. So, do you guys have other questions for me? Okay, cool. Matthew, what'd you learn? Nothing. I'll take it. I'll take it. All right, guys. Well, thank you for your attention. It was fun to talk to you guys. And then, of course, if anything does pop up, I would love to help you guys further, you and your teams, okay?